Lemon Amiga present. A Playguide video review. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi there, welcome to another Lemon Amiga game guide and review. This week we'll be taking a look at Wiz and Liz, a high-speed platformer developed by Lunatic Software. This was their third game on the Amiga and their last one, and it was also released, of course, by Psygnosis in November 1993. Wiz and Liz is actually a conversion of an original Mega Drive game. Yes, this appeared on the Genesis in 1993, developed by Martin R. Chudley and Mike Waterworth. In this game we play either as Wiz or Liz, and it's our job to collect rabbits who've been stolen by some unknown menace in the sky who's zapped away those rabbits and taken them away to 8 lands, and it's our job to traverse all those 8 lands, save all those rabbits and defeat all those enemies between here and the goal. The game begins with a slick introduction and a blown up picture of Wiz and Liz. From here we can turn the sound on and off, and we can select 1 or 2 player mode. Having selected our mode, we can then enter the password for that level. We can also swap between Wiz and Liz, Liz being the red character of course, and we can also change our level, which is the difficulty level of the game, which will denote the time limit, and one of 3 skill levels: training, taxing and tame, tame being the average one, the normal one. So I'll be choosing taxing for this, which makes skill level a little more tricky, yet on the apprentice level it means we have more time to do it. By pressing the credits button we gain access to all these credits. And anyone who's wondering where they heard Martin Chudley's name before, that's because he created, from the design level through the code and the graphics, the game Killing Gameshow, which we've reviewed already. He basically created that as a one-man band, and then his next project was Wiz and Liz on the Mega Drive. And Sean Hollingworth there credited as part of the music development team, and many credits which aren't actually listed on the Lemon Amiga database. But we'll be moving through the credits a little later on. You can see the credits should really appear on the title screen and really at the end of the game, but you can see quite a lot of members have gone into the team behind this, including Rob Northern, of course. We covered that previously, his copy lock routine. Lunatic Software comprised of James Thomas and Martin Hall, who started out on the Amiga with Necronon, which some people have likened to Delta on the Amiga. It was an R-Type type of game in 1991, and their second game was Cytron, which was an overhead shooter which appeared in 1992. This was their third game. James Thomas moved on to the SSX games, the downhill boarding simulator, and Martin Hall moved on most recently to 007 Legends, which appeared in 2012. Let's press that fire button and let's return back to that main menu, and let's select play. That will start the one player experience. player begins on what I like to call the cauldron level. Here you'll find a number of fruits, and by collecting those, you can throw those into the cauldron. 2 fruits together will trigger some kind of bonus, and yes, we can climb the trees and we can experiment with our Sonic-like jump. And this game is very much high speed and very much like Sonic, so let's see what 2 strawberries gives us. Maybe that is something effective, maybe not. But that's the spell complete. Let's move on to the roller coaster stage, which helps us choose a level, and there are 8 lands in this game, and we can choose those lands in any order. We can attempt all those things any which way we like. But once we've cleared all these doors, then we move on to the first end of level boss, which is how far we will get in this playthrough. The aim of each level, first of all, is to collect the 5-letter password, which makes the exit appear on the screen, and then you have to collect all those rabbits to make that exit open. Having done so, you can then jump into the exit. Those rabbits will also drop stars, which we can collect to buy things from in a shop later on, and they will also drop extra time and bonus fruit, which you can see I have a bonus strawberry. With no cruisers left on the level, all we need to do is to jump through the exits, and if we manage to collect any of those clock symbols, we'll be given extra time on the next level, and each world comprises of 2 levels. Once you've completed those, you will return to the map screen to select another one. So you can see I've managed to pick up a pair, and you can see these levels are very fast and very smooth, hopefully, given this frame ripper, and each level doesn't take very long at all. That's the lunar level completed, known as Lunar Land, and we also gain 2 bonuses. You can see the BO at the bottom, and they'll pile up and give us an extra bonus game if we manage to collect all those. At the end of each level, the usual suspects give us the usual bonuses added to our score, and then we get to move on and choose another one via the cauldron screen. And if we have time, we can wander around that cauldron screen and collect another 2 items, but for now I'm just going to wander around the map screen and choose another level. This is Grassland, and you can see a message reminding us that we must pick up that extra time to give us the maximum possible. At this stage, at this level, it gives us plenty to complete each one of these stages, but later on you'll have to collect that time just to have enough time. And if you collect, you can see the tomato that actually adds to a power bar, which is at the bottom of the screen, known as magic. And once that is full, then you can collect another fruit, and that should appear on the cauldron screen. In the very top centre of the screen, you can see how many rabbits we have yet to collect, and as we collect the last 3, we can take our time because we have all the time in the world at this point, and we can even jump down from these platforms by pulling back and pressing fire, as we shall see, which makes traversing these levels pretty easy. Ignoring the cauldron screen, let's move on to another level, and here we find the Snowland. There are 8 lands in the game: the Snowland, the Flower Temple, the Deadland, Lunar, which you've seen already, the Mines, the Woodland, the Desert, and the Grassland. And so after every 8 lands have been completed, we'll get to face one of the 7 bosses in this game. They range from, first of all, the Freaky Flower all the way down to the Deadly Dragon at the end of the game, and that means that this game has at least 56 levels until you get to the end, and that means it will take at least 2 hours to get through this end to end. Here we are in Deathland, and that section didn't really take much time. In fact, it only took mere seconds, and so we can hop from platform to platform, up and down, and that makes this game even more frantic and makes sure that we can traverse every single part of these levels. And that's another land completed. Luckily, we can skip the bonus section by pressing the fire button, and you can see that we can collect those strawberries that we managed to find on the previous levels, and they will add one item to the cauldron. Any more than 2 items won't trigger any bonuses, but those bonuses include extra stars, extra score, double the score, and even mini sub-games like Splat, where the player gets to throw tomatoes at the programmers, and a tube skiing section. There is also Wabbitoids, which could be like asteroids, and Wabbit invaders as well, and as we shall see later on, Snakes Alive, which is a snakes game. And at the end, if the timer is ticking down, the last 10 seconds will appear on the screen, and if you don't collect everything in those 10 seconds, then you will lose a life. And we have 3 lives at the moment. We begin with 3, and now we should lose 1 visually, which is another nice touch, and now we get to play that level again. The rabbits on each level will respawn indefinitely until you have that 5-letter passcode, and then the rabbits will appear in the very centre of that screen. They will stop respawning, and once you've collected all those will reveal the extra item, the extra fruit, and if we collect too many of those, then a fruit will follow us all the way back to the cauldron screen. So that's yet another one completed. We have the orange in tow, so hopefully that will appear. And now that that's been collected, we have another fruit to collect, which looks more like a pear. So you can see sometimes the time runs out and you have to be on your toes to collect the extra time, and sometimes the levels seem to take forever. But you can't mess around, you can't wait in this game, you have to be on your toes and collect all those, because that final minute really does tick down pretty quickly. If the player manages to escape the level within the last 10 seconds, they will be rewarded 50,000 points for doing that. And if they manage to collect all the rabbits as well and then escape within the last 10 seconds, they will be given 75,000 points. So it means points can really rack up in this game through one means or another, and it's not really a hard game to get into. It's just that you've no idea which ones are the spells to use and which ones will give us a bonus game and which ones are completely useless. In this case, we've managed to fall over the bonus game, that's Snakes Alive, and just like snakes, if we collect these dots, they will give us extra segments onto our snake and hopefully give us extra score as well. The score will depend on the length of time it has taken us to get all the way over there, and just like all classic Snakes games, the controls are slightly laggy, which means you cannot always line up with precisely the block that you wanted. You can also hold down that fire button, that will speed up the snake double, and so you can hopefully line up, hold down that fire, and then release that on your way to your next target. To accompany each land and each bonus game, we have a great selection of music, which tends to blend into the background and isn't too annoying apart from perhaps the title music. And I really do appreciate the music in this game. It seems to be thematic and it adds a lot of depth to this otherwise converted experience. So while we continue with this and then move on to the desert level, I'll just give you some more background about this game. It was originally designed and coded by Martin Chudley on the Sega Mega Drive, and it was converted to the Amiga by James Thomas and Martin Hall, who worked together on Necrocon and Cytron, and they converted this onto the Amiga in 1993. On the Sega version, there is actually a reference to this being the second game by the same producer as the Killing Gameshow, but no references appear on the Amiga. The graphics were created by Dave Beresford and David Bland, and I think they did a tremendous job. In fact, for years I argued that this was an AGA game, not realising that this could be run on a stock A500. The music was created by Richard Ed, who also created the Brian the Lion music in 1994, and the amazing graphic adventure Innocent Until Caught by Psygnosis yet again in 1994. And some more music was also created by Mike Clark, who created the Bill's Tomato game music, which was pretty similar in 1992. He also created Globule music for Psygnosis in 93, and Hired Guns also appeared in 1993. Finally, there's great sound effects in this game. It was created by Matt Furness, and of course we've seen Matt Furness music and sound effects in many games before, so yet again a great legacy on the Amiga. Creating this, Martin Chudley also moved on to the Project Gotham racing games and was involved as the creative designer of at least 3 of those titles, which appeared in the 2000s, but since 2007 he seems to be absent from the gaming scene. Back on the Amiga you can see some very fluid graphics as we move back through that desert, and apart from those backgrounds being a solid blue colour, it doesn't really harm this game given the fact that games like Lemmings also had a solid background, but of course on a real AGA machine that will be layers of parallax. And so let's move on to the next land, and this apparently is a temple, but there are various machines here which look more like a strange landscape, more like a forest with many futuristic contraptions in those. So it seems that we are dashing between the time zones back to the past and perhaps slightly to the future in levels like this, but that's our tentative link back to the time travel scenario in this series, however tentative that may be for this particular game. Wiz and Liz has some tremendously responsive controls in the main, and thanks to these great controls it's possible to really move around these levels. There are no pickups like power shoes and things which will speed us up even more, and there aren't many collectibles except for the stars and the time and the fruits. But apart from that, this is a real fast-paced platform experience, and it doesn't take the player long just to dive in and have some fun. Added to that, these smooth backgrounds and detailed landscapes really give the illusion of professionality, and you can say that the music as well really gives us a break with some tremendous, great atmospheric music. So I really do like the polish and the smoothness of this game, and I also like the fact that you can even jump on top of that washing line. But let's combine 2 more fruits together and wait to see what that does. Well, apparently it has stopped the clock, and that clock is on this cauldron section. Let's add 2 more strawberries together, let's see if that does anything, and then we can jump through that exit, and that's 10 more seconds of extra time, which may come in handy on the next level. And it doesn't really matter what level it is, so let's jump through this one. This is the mine level, which again could be moving back in time, but on the mines it gives us now 3 layers to get through, and another 20 rabbits to collect in more or less 30 seconds, so you'll have to be collecting 1 per second if you want to complete these levels. And you may argue that the tight time limit is the only thing that spoils this game, but then you can choose the difficulty level from the 1-player options before you even start this game, so hopefully with that variety of options on offer it should just about cater for everyone. you are running out of time, the only thing you can do is pray that you find some extra time, and in this case it's revealed some extra time on that level, and now we can collect the last few rabbits in time. You can see that swirling away. If any of those bonuses ascend all the way off the top of the screen, of course you will lose those. And we also have that bonus counter filled in, you may have noticed, and so that gives us an extra bonus level, and that's kind of a nighttime version of the mines. And now we can simply collect all those rabbits for some more bonus score. Sometimes those clock symbols really don't give us much time, and you sort of collected 2 there and they only give us a couple of seconds apiece, and so this is yet again another very tight level, which, well, we were down to the last 3 there before we ran out of time. So once again we cannot restart the bonus level because it was simply a bonus level, so that should teleport us back through another bonus handout. And the bonus is times 2,000 for every one of those grey rabbits that we found in the bonus section. And so now we've completed all 8 sections of that level. We'll move on to the next set of 8 levels with a bonus in between perhaps, but between here and there we'll also have to get through the end of world boss. And the end of world bosses start off fairly easy. You can see all we need to do is to press that fire button whenever we are not in the vicinity of that flower. Every time it touches us or we touch it, then we'll lose a life, and every time we jump into that flower. So you can see I'm losing life after life here, but these are mini lives. These are actually energy segments rather than full lives. We will lose 1 full life from the 3. We've actually collected an extra one when we fail that mission. And if we manage to fail that mission, we'll be teleported out of there, and we're just going to combine another 2 items. What that will do, practically nothing, but after this we will get another chance to complete the last land that we failed on, and that's yet another bonus level. And if you get through that, then we'll be taken to the end of world boss. And the end of world boss, yet again, I'm actually not sure how many hits that takes. And all you have to do is get out of the way of that thing, and sometimes it's not easy to do that, but the first boss is relatively easy. Moving on to the scores, there is actually a huge range of scores for this game. Amiga Action gave Wiz and Liz 69%, Amiga Joker gave it 72%, Amiga Formats gave it 77%, AP gave it 78%, and the current Lemon score and CU Amiga gave it 79%, 08 gave it 83%, the One originally gave it 86%, Amiga Dream Issue 2, which was a new magazine, gave it 89%, and Amiga Concept Issue 1, which was yet another Amiga magazine in 1994, gave this 91%. And finally, the One gave the re-release 93%, praising the fact that it was very playable, very easy to get into, and fast, furious action. That gives this game an average score of 8 out of 10, and that means it's still in the realms of very good. And if only these final bosses were a little clearer. It seems to me that he's sapping away our energy, but no, that's simply the direction in which the boss is. And if we hold down that fire button, we will zap its weak parts, and apparently we have to zap all of its weak parts before it falls to the ground. And again, that gun recharges between every blast, and the only way that we know that we've hit that thing is that it will flash multiple times on the screen. So we've no idea how long it takes for that gun to recharge. And on this particular occasion, having not played this for quite some years, I forgot and died. That means that we get to enter our name on the high score table, and I think you can type that in, but for this we can use a laborious circular method. I think it's a nice touch that we have angel rabbits on the final death screen. And as we enter our name, we also get those printed out on the high score table with some more credits from this game. Back to the start of this game. And so before we leave this review, let's just take a very quick look at the 2-player mode. And 2 players do appear on the same screen at the same time thanks to a split screen option. And of course that means that each player can run all the way off that screen, and the levels are identical, the speed is identical, the graphics are identical, and so is the music, and so it means that this game can play it very quickly in 1 or 2-player mode. And unfortunately the screen is squashed, of course, so sometimes it's very difficult to see the enemies and particularly the power-ups as they float off the top of that screen. But hopefully 2-player mode adds that little bit of variety into this game, and if you have 2 people, 2 friends, or even partners, husband and wife, they will have a great time playing this game. So with at least 56 levels on offer and 900 combinations of spells which can be used in that cauldron, and don't forget the 7 bosses, this game really does stretch on for quite some time and is great value for money. And of course now that we can get those on the internet, even greater. And this is certainly one of the games which reminded me of the great console feel on the Amiga. We didn't get too many of these, but the ones which made it, certainly some of those felt great. Thank you once again for viewing another Lemon Amiga Playguide and review. Hope you get a chance to check this game out and really enjoy it. So hopefully we'll be back same place next week with another Amiga classic or 2, and in the meantime I'll just leave you with the credits and the music for this one. Thank you.